Vice-President Gore, members of Parliament, senators and friends, I'd like to welcome Vice-President Gore to Canberra and thank him for the productive discussions we've held today. My discussions enabled me to reconsider important issues facing all Australians and the rest of the world. Many would say that the United States of America was the loser by Vice-President Gore not serving as President of the Great Republic. The world was the beneficiary of the courage and the leadership that he has shown. History tells us it's not the position that makes a leader, it's his actions and his examples which others can follow, others that are maybe less capable like me but can see the light shining out of the darkness. Vice-President Gore is a great leader and we're fortunate to have him here today. The world is constantly changing and our ability to adapt to change, to keep an open mind on issues which affect all of us is what really matters. It's not the Labor way or the Liberal way, it's the right way that's important for Australia and important for the world. True to our promises to the Australian people at the last election, Palmer United senators will vote in the Senate to abolish the carbon tax. In doing so, Palmer United senators will move an amendment, and that amendment will ensure that the removal of the carbon tax requires that all producers of energy in this country are required by law, not by choice, to pass on to all consumers of energy the savings from the repeal of the carbon tax. I expect that all senators from all parties will support this amendment. Action by our senators will make Australian industries more competitive internationally and the lives of our people more manageable. The carbon tax is an arbitrary tax and it sets a price on carbon at a level far above the international price for carbon. In so doing, it disadvantages Australians, and that's why it should be repealed. The government response to climate change, as the Prime Minister has outlined, is to tackle the problem, which he has acknowledged, by direct action. Direct action is a waste of money. At a time when families, pensioners, young Australians, stay-at-home mums and single parents, our Indigenous communities are facing unfair measures in the budget. To increase excise and indexation is not the answer. If New Zealand could join the international community, why can't Australia? Australia acting alone cannot change the world, and change the world we must, not just for ourselves but for our children, not just for them but for all the children of the world, not just for our time but for all time. For time waits for no man, and the challenges we face are not easy, but face them we must, and face them we can together. Climate change is a global problem and it must have a global solution. Air moves around the world. Many countries fail to act because they're unsure how the issue will be dealt with by other nations. Australia has got an opportunity to set a standard which can act as a catalyst for the whole world, to set a fair framework which the world can follow. In understanding climate change, we must remain ever vigilant and be aware of how Australia, as part of the international community, is doing, and more importantly, what the global community can do together to make the lives of all those who inhabit this planet more secure. Together, we can achieve the extraordinary. As President Obama in the United States has shown great leadership in encouraging all countries to act, Australia needs to do its fair share. In voting against the abolition of the Climate Change Authority, Palmer United senators will move an amendment to establish an emissions trading scheme. This scheme would only become effective once Australia's main trading partners also take action to establish such a scheme. This measure cannot be defined as a financial measure. It will have a carbon price zero rated. At a future time, the government or parliament will have the ability to set the financial parameters of the scheme. These should be set based upon the actions of our leading trading partners, China, the United States of America, the European Union, Japan and Korea. We need to ensure that the jobs and enterprises of all Australians can remain competitive. If this amendment is supported and passed by the government, the world will know that once they act, they can be sure that Australia will respond in like terms. As John F. Kennedy said many years ago, for in the final analysis our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this one small planet, we all breathe the same air, and we all cherish our children's futures, and we all are mortal. When truth triumphs over injustice, everyone is the winner, and the inconvenient truth is the truth that we must face together. There can be no justification at any time for closing an enterprise when it's profitable and providing income and jobs for Australians. This is more so when that enterprise is, by its very efforts, providing a better solution for the environment. Palmer United senators will vote against the abolition of the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. The Prime Minister promised the Australian people prior to the last election that Australia would retain its renewable energy targets. Now, like many other promises, he seeks to break this one. The renewable energy target in 2020, too many politicians make promises before elections only to break them after elections. Public service should be the highest calling. We have to hold our politicians to their word, or our system of democracy, and all that it stands for, will break down. The Palmer United Party's role in the Senate is to keep faith with the Australian people. We will therefore not support any change to the renewable energy targets before the 2016 after the next election. Listening is one of the most important things we can do. By listening, we can learn from others and we can make changes before changes change us. I want to thank the Vice-President for coming to Canberra today. I want to thank him for his discussions. As Australians, we must put the interest of our people before our own individual interests and the interests of all people of the world ahead of all else. As it's been said, we all need to have an open mind. This is called for by the need for better mutual understanding and better mutual respect. An open mind will enable us to have an objective and realistic understanding of each other. We cannot only discover what divides us, but what we have in common and what we can agree on. We have more in common in the common future that we all share on this planet than anything else. At least we can see to it that our differences will not result in clashes or confrontation. An open mind will also enable us to be more appreciative and accommodative and supportive of each other and our concerns and our priorities. Despite all the talk about climate change in the world, we are still in a developing world with such huge populations and still face very serious problems of an unbalanced development, poverty and environmental degradation. We seek a better world for Australia, for all its citizens of the world, so that one day man can be what he was meant to be, free and independent. I'd like to now introduce Vice-President Gore to make a few comments. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Clive. I want to thank Clive Palmer for the statements he's just made, for his kind words. Personally, I want to acknowledge Senator-elect Glenn Lazarus. And I'd like to make just a few comments about what you've just heard and about this extraordinary moment in which Australia, the United States, and the rest of the world is finally beginning to confront the climate crisis in a meaningful way. The United States, earlier this month, saw a dramatic move by President Obama to require a 30% reduction in carbon emissions, reductions that will, for the most part, be accomplished by individual states and regions in my country through an emissions trading system. We have also seen the nation of China implement a cap-and-trade system in 2 provinces and 5 cities, and we heard an announcement last week by a high official that these pilots will serve as the basis for a nationwide cap-and-trade system in China within the next few years. We have also seen, just within the last month, the election of a new Prime Minister in India, with Prime Minister Modi announcing on his first day in office a stunning initiative to provide electricity to the 400 million Indians who do not now have it by principally relying on photovoltaic energy. All of these developments add up to the world moving to solve the climate crisis. And that is why it is so significant that Clive Palmer has announced that his party will support the continuation of the renewable energy target and the continuation of the Clean Energy Finance Corporation and the continuation of the Climate Change Authority, and that he has announced as well that he and his party will fight to re-implement an ETS under the conditions that he has described to you. While I will be disappointed if the immediate price on carbon is removed because it is a policy which I believe to be ultimately critical to solving the climate crisis, I am extremely hopeful that Australia will continue to play a global leadership role on this most pressing issue. An emissions trading scheme, a strong renewable energy target, and sound guidance from the Climate Change Authority, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, are all highly effective in reducing carbon emissions. I have appreciated the opportunity I've had to meet with Clive Palmer and the discussions that I've had with him, and I congratulate him and his party on this outstanding statement that you've just heard. Thank you all very much.